Cassidy, if you are neurodivergent, were you the Cassandra of your family and workplace?
Alright, I'm going to do a longer video on this. Yes, for sure. Here's how I have dealt with it. So first, recognize that people can't hear you until they ask you a question. So if you elaborate on a point that wasn't part of the question, then they start to think that you're a know-it-all. And that is a big part of why neurodivergent people always have a hard time getting neurotypical people to listen to them and other neurodivergent people. It's because you're trying to get somebody to learn a lesson that they are not ready to learn. And as we know, our brains will not allow us to absorb information we are not ready to hear. And so, and it takes actually some repetition to get those ideas in there, right? So if you're not being listened to, recognize that something about your communication is blocking the other person from being able to listen to you. And whether or not you have a need, they may not be able to accommodate that need. And so, yes, it does mean extending your own, the mask, right? And so you have to determine, is it worth it? The second thing is your pattern recognition is functioning, but it doesn't mean that their pattern recognition isn't functioning or that they haven't deemed something else to be a higher priority because they're closer to the problem than you are. And once you start talking down to them, they just can't hear you. They just straight can't hear you. And so in order to get through to people, you have to kind of also figure out what's blocking them from hearing you. And the way that you can do that is by asking questions. Questions make people think in the way that statements don't. So if you haven't heard anything that I've said up until this point, I'm going to now ask you some questions. And if you go back to the beginning of the video and watch it again, they will sound different. What is it about the last person who wasn't able to hear me? What was going on for them that might have made it hard for them to focus on what I was saying? What about that isn't something they have control over? Why might they have prioritized something else over the problem that I was alerting them to? What problems could be bigger than the problems that I